I mean, I
We
might
started
have
late.
little takes here and there. We still have a lot of time. Okay, so what I want to do, has anyone heard of Brene Brown?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I saw her. I have a funny story. I saw her one time, but I was so starstruck I couldn't.
Stars.
Oh.
She would
I don't get
love that.
I don't even get starstruck. Like I've seen other people, whatever, and I'm like not phased. But I saw her and I was like, oh my god.
Okay, so I'm
But she
gonna
saw me
play
staring
her.
at her.
She saw?
She knew. She saw me staring at her and she like kind of smiled, but I was just like I just didn't know what to say to her.
You're such a psychologist.
I know. It was like I totally geeked out, but it was cool. I was stunned. I was like, I wanted to tell her, oh my gosh, I love you, and your work is so great, but I couldn't. I was just like, she's great, and her books are great,
Learned about these things from studying them.
I'm totally blanking. She has a couple of books.
Is it more and more?
People and just incorporating more like arts and education.
I only have her one book.
Yeah. Oh, Daring Greatly.
Oh, Daring Greatly, that's all.
Daring Greatly will be nice.
I have Daring Greatly.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about my TEDx Houston talk. I woke up the morning after I gave that talk with the worst vulnerability hangover of my life. And I actually didn't leave my house for about 3 days. The first time I left was to meet a friend for lunch. And when I walked in, she was already at the table.
Big energy.
That down and she said, God, you look like hell. I said, thanks. I feel really, I'm not functioning. And she said, what's going on? And I said, I just told 500 people that I became a researcher to avoid vulnerability. And that when being vulnerable emerged from my data as absolutely essential to wholehearted living, I told these 500 people that I had a breakdown. I had a slide that said breakdown. At what point did I think that was a good idea? And she said, I saw your talk live streamed. It was not really you. It was a little different than what you usually do, but it was great. And I said, this can't happen. YouTube, they're putting this thing on YouTube, and we're going to be talking about 600, 700 people. And she said, well, I think it's too late. And I said, let me ask you something. And she said, yeah. And I said, do you remember when we were in college and really wild and kind of dumb? She said, yeah. And I said, remember when we leave a really bad message on our ex-boyfriend's answering machine? Then we'd have to break into his dorm room and then erase the tape. And she no. So of course the only thing I could think of to say at that point was, yeah, me neither. Yeah, me neither. And I'm thinking to myself, Brene, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why did you bring this up? Have you lost your mind? Your sisters would be perfect for this. So I looked back up and she said, it's sticking a bit from the internet.
Oh, no. Trying to answer anything
are you really going to try to break in and steal the video before they put it on YouTube? And I said, I'm just thinking about it a little bit. She said, you're like the worst vulnerability role model ever. And then I looked at her and I said something that at the time felt a little dramatic, but ended up being more prophetic than dramatic. I said, if 500 turns into 1,000 or 2,000, my life is over. I had no contingency plan for 4 million. And my life did end when that happened. And maybe the hardest part about my life ending is that I learned something hard about myself, and that was that as much as I would be frustrated about not being able to get my work out to the world, there was a part of me that was working very hard to engineer staying small, staying right under the radar. But I want to talk about what I've learned. There's 2 things that I've learned in the last year. The first is vulnerability is not weakness. And that myth is profoundly dangerous. Let me ask you honestly, and I'll give you this warning. I'm trained as a therapist, so I can outweigh you uncomfortably. So if you could just raise your hand, that would be awesome. How many of you, honestly, when you're thinking about doing something vulnerable or saying something vulnerable, think, God, vulnerability is weakness, this is weakness? How many of you think of vulnerability and weakness synonymously? The majority of people. Now let me ask you this question. This past week at TED, how many of you, when you saw vulnerability up here, thought it was pure courage? Vulnerability is not weakness. I define vulnerability as emotional risk, exposure, uncertainty. It fuels our daily lives. And I've come to the belief, this is my 12th year doing this research, that vulnerability is our most accurate measurement of courage. To be vulnerable, to let ourselves be seen, to be honest. One of the weird things that's happened is after the TED explosion, I got a lot of offers to speak all over the country. Everyone from schools and parent meetings to Fortune 500 companies. And so many of the calls went like this. Hey, Dr. Brown, we loved your TED Talk. We'd like you to come in and speak. We'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mention vulnerability or shame. What would you like for me to talk about? There's 3 big answers. This is mostly, to be honest with you, from the business sector. Innovation, creativity, and change. So let me go on the record and say, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. To create is to make something that has never existed before. There's nothing more vulnerable than that. Adaptability to change is all about vulnerability. The second thing, in addition to really finally understanding the relationship between vulnerability and courage, the second thing I learned is this. We have to talk about shame. And I'm going to be really honest with you. When I became like a vulnerability researcher, and that became the focus because of the TED Talk, and I'm not kidding that. I'll give you an example. About 3 months ago, I was in a sporting goods store buying goggles and shin guards and all the things that parents buy at the sporting goods store. About from 100 feet away, this is what I hear. Vulnerability TED! Vulnerability TED! Yeah, I'm a 5th generation Texan. Our family motto is lock and load. I am not a natural vulnerability researcher. So I'm like, just keep walking. She's on my 6. And then I hear, vulnerability TED. I turn around, I go, hi. She's right here. And she said, you're the shame researcher who had the breakdown. At this point, parents are like pulling their children close, look away. And I'm so worn out at this point in my life. I look at her and I actually say, it was a frickin' spiritual awakening. And she looks back and does this. I know. And she said, we watched your TED Talk in my book club. Then we read your book and we renamed ourselves the Breakdown Babes. And she said, our tagline is, we're falling apart and it feels fantastic. You can only imagine what it's like for me in a faculty meeting. So when I became Vulnerability TED, like an action figure, like Ninja Barbie, but I'm Vulnerability TED, I thought I'm going to leave that shame stuff behind because I spent 6 years studying shame before I really started writing and talking about vulnerability. And I thought, thank God, because shame is this horrible topic. No one wants to talk about it. It's the best way to shut people down on an airplane. What do? I study shame. Oh. And I see you. But in surviving this last year, I was reminded of a cardinal rule, not a research rule, but a moral imperative from my upbringing. You've got to dance with the one who brung you. And I did not learn about vulnerability and courage and creativity and innovation from studying vulnerability. I learned about these things from studying shame. And so I want to walk you in to shame. Jungian analysts call shame the swampland of the soul. And we're going to walk in, and the purpose is not to walk in and, construct a home and live there. It is to put on some galoshes and walk through and find our way around. Here's why. We heard the most compelling call ever to have a conversation in this country, and I think globally, around race, right? Yes, we heard that. Yes? Cannot have that conversation without shame. Because you cannot talk about race without talking about privilege, and when people start talking about privilege, they get paralyzed by shame. We heard a brilliant, simple solution to not killing people in surgery, which is have a checklist. You can't fix that problem without addressing shame, because when they teach those folks how to suture, they also teach them how to stitch their self-worth to being all-powerful. And all-powerful folks don't need checklists. And I had to write down the name of this TED fellow so I didn't mess it up here. Michigan Ingawale. I hope I did right by you. I saw the TED Fellows my first day here, and he got up and he explained how he was driven to create some technology to help test for anemia because people were dying unnecessarily. And he said, I saw this need, so you know what I did? I made it. And everybody just burst into applause, and they were like, yes! And he said, and it didn't work. And then I made it 32 more times. And then it worked. You know what the big secret about TED is? I can't wait to tell people this. I guess I'm doing it right now. This is like the failure conference. No, it is. You know why this place is amazing? Because very few people here are afraid to fail. And no one that gets on the stage so far that I've seen has not failed. I have failed miserably. Many times. I don't think the world understands that because of shame. There's a great quote that saved me this past year by Theodore Roosevelt. A lot of people refer to it as the man in the arena quote. And it goes like this: it is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who sits and points out how the doer of deeds could have done things better and how he falls and stumbles. The credit goes to the man in the arena whose face is marred with dust and blood and sweat. But when he's in the arena, at best, he wins, and at worst, he loses. But when he fails, when he loses, he does so daring greatly. And that's what this conference to me is about. That's what life is about daring greatly, about being in the arena. When you walk up to that arena and you put your hand on the door and you think, I'm going in and I'm going to try this, shame is the gremlin who says, you're not good enough. You never finished that MBA. Your wife left you. I know your dad really wasn't in Luxembourg, he was in Sing Sing. I know those things that happened to you growing up. I know you don't think that you're pretty enough or smart enough or talented enough or powerful enough. I know your dad never paid attention even when you made CFO. Shame is that thing. And then if we can quiet it down and walk in and say, I'm going to do this, we look up and the critic that we see pointing and laughing 99% of the time is who? Us. Shame drives two big tapes. Never good enough. And if you can talk it out of that one, who do you think you are? The thing to understand about shame is it's not guilt. Shame is a focus on self. Guilt is a focus on behavior. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. How many of you, if you did something that was hurtful to me, would be willing to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake? How many of you would be willing to say that? Guilt. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Shame. I'm sorry, I am a mistake. There is a huge difference between shame and guilt. And here's what you need to know. Shame is highly, highly correlated with addiction, depression, violence, aggression, bullying, suicide, eating disorders. And here's what you even need to know more. Guilt, inversely correlated with those things. The ability to hold something we've done or failed to do up against who we want to be is incredibly adaptive. It's uncomfortable, but it's adaptive. The other thing you need to know about shame is it's absolutely organized by gender. If shame washes over me and washes over Chris, it's going to feel the same. Everyone sitting in here knows the warm wash of shame. We're pretty sure that the only people who don't experience shame are people who have no capacity for connection or empathy. Which means, yes, I have a little shame. No, I'm a sociopath. So I would opt for yes, you have a little shame. Shame feels the same for men and women, but it's organized by gender. For women, the best example I can give you is Anjali, the commercial. I can put the wash on the line, pack the lunches, hand out the kisses, and be work at 5 to 9. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan, and never let you forget you're a man. For women, shame is do it all, do it perfectly, and never let them see you sweat. I don't know how much perfume that commercial sold, but I guarantee you it moved a lot of antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. Shame for women is this web of unattainable, conflicting, competing expectations about who we're supposed to be. And it's a straitjacket. For men, shame is not a bunch of competing, conflicting expectations. Shame is one. Do not be perceived as what? Weak. I did not interview men for the first 4 years of my study. And it wasn't until a man looked at me one day after a book signing and said, I love what you have to say about shame. I'm curious why you didn't mention men. And I said, I don't study men. And he said, that's convenient. And I said, why? And he said, because you say to reach out, tell our story, be vulnerable. But you see those books you just signed for my wife and my 3 daughters? I said, yeah. They'd rather me die on top of my white horse than watch me fall down. When we reach out and be vulnerable, we get the shit beat out of us. And don't tell me it's from the guys and the coaches and the dads. Because the women in my life are harder on me than anyone else. So I started interviewing men and asking questions. And what I learned is this. You show me a woman who can actually sit with a man in real vulnerability and fear, I'll show you a woman who's done incredible work. You show me a man who can sit with a woman who's just had it. She can't do it all anymore. And his first response is not, I unloaded the dishwasher, but he really listens, because that's all we need. I'll show you a guy who's done a lot of work. Shame is an epidemic in our culture. And to get out from underneath it, to find our way back to each other, we have to understand how it affects us and how it affects the way we're parenting, the way we're working, the way we're looking at each other. Very quickly, some research by Mahalik at Boston College. He asked, what do women need to do to conform to female norms? The top answers in this country: nice, thin, modest, and use all available resources for appearance. When he asked about men, what do men in this country need to do to conform with male norms? The answers were: always show emotional control, work is first, pursue status, and violence. If we're going to find our way back to each other, we have to understand and know empathy, because empathy is the antidote to shame. If you put shame in a petri dish, it needs 3 things to grow exponentially: secrecy, silence, and judgment. If you put the same amount of shame in a petri dish and douse it with empathy, it can't survive. The 2 most powerful words when we're in struggle: me too. And so I'll leave you with this thought. If we're going to find our way back to each other, vulnerability is going to be that path. And I know it's seductive to stand outside the arena, because I think I did it my whole life, and think to myself, I'm going to go in there and kick some ass when I'm bulletproof and when I'm perfect. And that is seductive. But the truth is, that never happens. And even if you got as perfect as you could and as bulletproof as you could possibly muster, when you got in there, that's not what we want to see. We want you to go in. We want to be with you and across from you. And we just want for ourselves and for the people we care about and the people we work with to dare greatly. So thank y'all very much. I really appreciate it.
I actually like the vulnerability one better, but shame is more central to a person's identity, so that's why I stuck with that video. Okay, so let's just talk really quick, being vulnerable, of course, about how your sessions went, some things that surprised you, some things that still confound you, and where you feel the most intimidated or the most accomplished, if you want to use the word accomplished, or comfortable. So anything, many. Hi, Elena. Nice to see you. Anything to say? No, right now.
I had an aha moment about a question that Ariel asked me.
Which was?
I was it's gone. I was saying that I sometimes feel that I can't say no to people, and because I tend to want to go out of my way to help people. That makes me feel good, and I think it helps being a friend. I think that's what a friend is supposed to be. Well, I didn't say that. I said I want to be a good friend. And Ariel said, tell me what you think a friend is. And I listed things. And she said, not once did you say somebody who would go out of their way to...
I think that you were talking about, like, just generally how you put others' needs in front of your own. And sometimes she doesn't want to let a friend down. So it'll be at her expense, or she won't do what she wants to do to please the friend. So I asked her, well, what's a good friend to you? Like, what qualities would a good friend have? And And she listed off a bunch of things, and I was like, well, you didn't mention at all someone who puts your needs before theirs.
And I went, she's right. I've never thought of it that way. That's what the question's supposed to be.
So energetically, what do you think happens when someone puts someone else's needs in front of theirs, and they think they're making themselves happy as well as the other person? What happens to the energy? Do you think it all stays happy, sweet, pink, and light? What do you think happens?
I think there becomes resentment that you feel like you have to do that to maintain a friendship.
Especially if you trip and fall on the way to wrap to someone's present, or instead of sleeping in because you feel like you have a cold, you got up early and baked cookies. Okay, so is there a way not to feel resentment in that?
Don't do it.
Well, I mean, get to yourself first. Yeah. When it's over, when you yourself.
I think the most important thing is to stay within your best interest, because whatever is your best interest is going to be the best interest of all. Your very best interest, okay? So if rest is in your very best interest, good health is in your very best interest, and time to relax and meditate and do things that you want to is in your best interest. And you like people who do that because they come to you, relax, and you have a cup of coffee and you can chat, you know. So stay within your best interest. And the way you do that is, I cannot stress over much the conversation you should be having with yourself. Ask your body, should I go get this present wrapped right now so I don't have to do it in the morning? Or should I go to bed now? Okay. Follow what your body says. It has a very big opinion on that, because you're interloping or stealing from its stores or margin or whatever you want to call it, its reserve, to put a check mark in your God blessed to-do list. And that's all it is, just to take it off that list. It's not to save anyone's life. It's not to give you a big uplift of energy before you go to bed. Who needs an uplift of energy before you go to bed? Oh, I guess when you're young, that would be nice. But you see, if we talk to ourselves, we have this communication with ourselves, and ask it, what it is that you and I can best do in this moment. What would you like me to do? I may not do it, but what do you think I should do? And then you come up with an agreement. And then the resentment doesn't build up because you did this purposefully. You did this fully knowing that you might be a little shortchanged the next day. But you have no one to blame but yourself. Okay? So the resentment doesn't have to be outgoing. It doesn't have to pile up. You're dealing with it by short-circuiting its ability to be hidden. You're taking it out in the open and go, look, I've got a choice right now. I can either do this or this. What would benefit us the most? Learn to talk. When you are starting a new diet, when you're starting a new job, when you're starting a new relationship, you should be asking yourself, what is it that I want from all of this? From the bird's eye view. Do you want this particular man and you gotta have this man? If you don't have this man, you're gonna die? Okay, is that the truth, or is it happiness? Is it compatibility? Is it partnership? Is it weathering storms together? You want that endurance. It may not be the best in bed, but boy, he's got endurance, which helps in bed too. So you have to think about the big scheme of things here, you know, and thinking like you're a co-ed in college, and which guy the girls are all slobbering over, and you're going to be the one that wins that trophy. That's really old time stuff. You know, find out in the end what is going to serve both of you, right? Okay, so have that conversation, know what's good for you, and if you're going to go against your body's needs or your heart's desire, do it purposefully and tell your body why. You know, my mom's not going to be here forever. I really think she needs me at this moment. I really want to sleep, but as long as I make sure I bring stuff to sleep at her house, I'm not trying to drive home. That's my compromise. Okay, so give me a little bit more energy to get through this with my mom, and I promise I'll sleep at her house instead of trying to struggle through traffic to get home. These are the conversations we can have. This part of us, we feel like it's separate from us, and it kind of is. It's the outer envelope for our soul. It was built so that almost any soul can fit in. A soul from Targeta, from the Pleiades, from Andromeda, from Orion, from all the, we were designed to be able to handle just about any DNA of soul that comes in here. Why? Because people are dying, lining up to have this experience on earth. Why? Because it's so freaking hard. But it's short duration. Even an 80-year-old life, 90-year-old life is short duration compared to a typical Pleiadian who lives for 1,000 years. 80 or 90 years is nothing. It's a blink of an eye. So all these souls say, I can handle shit for 80 years. It's a blink of an eye. And then they get here, and it is torture. So look at all of us who have made it this far. Doing damn good. It's like slugging through mud, carrying a big refrigerator on your back, having, snow mittens on your hands, and trying to crochet some beautiful napkin or something. It's hard. It's really hard. But it is hard because once you go through all those steps to figure out where you want to go, you can now turn around, look at the person who's struggling behind you and say, don't step over there. There's a puddle over there. Come over to the right a little bit. Now come forward. 4 steps. Okay, reach up. There's a wall. Lean on the wall. Hug the edge. That's what we're supposed to do for each other. Okay. So no course, no path, no matter what it looks like from the outside, is easy. But we're going through it because we chose to be here, and now we have to help the people that came. Okay, karma. A little bit about karma. I talked about this before. I actually like the vulnerability one better, but shame is more central to a person's identity, so that's why I stuck with that video. Okay. So, let's just talk really quick, being vulnerable, of course, about how your sessions went, some things that surprised you, some things that still confound you, and where you feel the most intimidated or the most accomplished, if you want to use the word accomplished, or comfortable. So anything, many. Hi, Elena. Nice to see you. Anything to say? All right, no.
I had an aha moment about a question that Ariel asked me.
Which was?
I was it's gone. I was saying that I sometimes feel that I can't say no to people, and because I tend to want to go out of my way to help people. That makes me feel good, and I think it helps being a friend. I think that's what a friend is supposed to be. Well, I didn't say that. I said I want to be a good friend. And Ariel said, tell me what you think a friend is. And I listed things, And she said, not once did you say somebody who would go out of their way to, what did you say?
I think you were talking about like just generally how you put others' needs in front of your
Yes.
own, and
Yes.
sometimes she doesn't want to let a friend down, so it'll be at her expense, or she won't do what she wants to do to please the friend. So I asked her, well, what's a good friend to you? Like what qualities would a good friend have? And she listed off a bunch of things, and I was like, well, you didn't mention at all someone who puts your needs before theirs.
And I went, she's right. I've never thought of it that way. That's what the question's supposed to be, right?
So energetically, what do you think happens when someone puts someone else's needs in front of theirs, and they think they're making themselves happy as well as the other person? What happens to the energy? Do you think it all stays happy, sweet, pink, and light? What do you think happens?
I think there becomes resentment that you feel like you have to do that to maintain a friendship.
Especially if you trip and fall on the way to wrap to someone's present, or instead of sleeping in because you feel like you have a cold, you got up early and baked cookies. Okay, so is there a way not to feel resentment in that?
Don't do it.
Well, I mean, get to yourself first. Yeah, when it's over, recommend yourself.
I think the most important thing is to stay within your best interest, because whatever is your best interest is going to be the best interest of all. Your very best interest, okay? So if rest is in your very best interest, good health is in your very best interest, and time to relax and meditate and do things that you want to is in your best interest, and you like people who do that because they come to you relax and you have a cup of coffee and you can chat, you know. So stay within your best interest, and the way you do that is, I cannot stress over much the conversation you should be having with yourself. Ask your body, should I go get this present wrapped right now so I don't have to do it in the morning? Or should I go to bed now? Okay. Follow what your body says. It has a very big opinion on it, because you're interloping or stealing from its stores or margin or whatever you want to call it, reserve, to put a check mark in your God blessed to-do list. And that's all it is, just to take it off that list. It's not to save anyone's life. It's not to give you a big uplift of energy before you go to bed. Who needs an uplift of energy before you go to bed? Oh, I guess when you're young, that would be nice. But you see, if we talk to ourselves, we have this communication with ourselves, and ask it, what it is that you and I can best do in this moment. What would you like me to do? I may not do it, but what do you think I should do? And then you come up with an agreement. And then the resentment doesn't build up because you did this purposefully. You did this fully knowing that you might be a little shortchanged the next day. But you have no one to blame but yourself. Okay? So the resentment doesn't have to be outgoing. It doesn't have to pile up. You're dealing with it by short-circuiting its ability to be hidden. You're taking it out in the open and go, look, I've got a choice right now. I can either do this or this. What would benefit us the most? Learn to talk. When you are starting a new diet, when you're starting a new job, when you're starting a new relationship, you should be asking yourself, what is it that I want from all of this? From the bird's eye view. Do you want this particular man and you gotta have this man? If you don't have this man, you're gonna die? Okay, is that the truth, or is it happiness? Is it compatibility? Is it partnership? Is it weathering storms together? You want that endurance. It may not be the best in bed, but boy, he's got endurance, which helps in bed too. So you have to think about the big scheme of things here, you know, and thinking like you're a co-ed in college, and which guy the girls are all slobbering over, and you're going to be the one that wins that trophy. That's really old time stuff. You know, find out in the end what is going to serve both of you, right? Okay, so have that conversation, know what's good for you, and if you're going to go against your body's needs or your heart's desire, do it purposefully and tell your body why. You know, my mom's not going to be here forever. I really think she needs me at this moment. I really want to sleep. But as long as I make sure I bring stuff to sleep at her house, I'm not trying to drive home. That's my compromise. Okay, so give me a little bit more energy to get through this with my mom, and I promise I'll sleep at her house instead of trying to struggle through traffic to get home. These are the conversations we can have. This part of us, we feel like it's separate from us, and it kind of is. It's the outer envelope for our soul. It was built so that almost any soul can fit in. A soul from Targeta, from the Pleiades, from Andromeda, from Orion, from we were designed to be able to handle just about any DNA of soul that comes in here. Why? Because people are dying, lining up to have this experience on earth. Why? Because it's so freaking hard. But it's short duration. Even an 80-year-old life, 90-year-old life is short duration compared to a typical Pleiadian who lives for 1,000 years. 80 or 90 years is nothing. It's a blink of an eye. So all these souls say, I can handle shit for 80 years. It's a blink of an eye. And then they get here, and it is torture. So look at all of us who have made it this far. Doing damn good. It's like slugging through mud, carrying a big refrigerator on your back, having, snow mittens on your hands, and trying to crochet some beautiful napkin or something. It's hard. It's really hard. But it is hard because once you go through all those steps to figure out where you want to go, you can now turn around, look at the person who's struggling behind you and say, don't step over there. There's a puddle over there. Come over to the right a little bit. Now come forward. 4 steps. Okay, reach up. There's a wall. Lean on the wall. Hug the edge. That's what we're supposed to do for each other. Okay. So no course, no path, no matter what it looks like from the outside, is easy. But we're going through it because we chose to be here, and now we have to help the people that came. Okay, karma. A little bit about karma. I talked about this before, where was that karma was a construct, just like time is a construct. It doesn't really exist anywhere else but here, and those with the clocks that stop at 12. We have base 10 mathematics, but other civilizations have base 12 mathematics, so their clocks look different if they haven't met on. Okay, so we have a construct called karma. It actually is based with the Andromedans. They're one of the oldest. We're talking people who have been interstellar for millions of years. We are not even there yet, and we've been around for millions of years. But they've been interstellar for millions of years. They came up with karma. And karma is the idea, whatever energy you put out, you're going to get that. That's the kind of energy you put out. But it somehow developed by the organized religions and even the governments and the laws we build up in the country for punishment and stuff like that, they make it so that if you do something wrong, you're gonna get punished and you're gonna have to suffer in order to pay it back. If they're enlightened, they tell you you have to learn the lesson. They will teach that lesson, know that lesson, and then you've completed your karma. But for a lot of people, you have to get back on the same life that you're living right now. In other words, you're going to make a choice as a soul to come back as a mother who's going to have a child with a defect, and you're going to make a better decision this time. You're not going to let them do all this heart surgery to keep the baby alive for 2 years on the ventilator. And you're just dying to get back to that kind of life and do it over. That's the untruth. The fact is once you learn the lesson, you do not have to get back and pay it back with doing the right choices again. Because you're going to go out, come back with amnesia, and hopefully try not to make the same exact mistake in a world that's probably going to be a little worse off than this one we're in now, which was a lot worse off than the one our parents were in. So the likelihood of me being able to make it right 100% the next time you reincarnate is almost zero. So humans end up on this wheel, and the Buddhists call the wheel of samsara. Constant misery, coming back over and over. So the real truth of karma is that you can make a different choice. If you learn the lesson, you can pick another planet, another body, another adventure, and go for broke on a whole different thing. So there's a joke about that, as when you die, don't go towards the light. Realize you can go right or left, and you'll be okay too. Because towards the light, you're going to get counseled to come back. See, because you're going to see, everyone's going to see that movie of your life flash through, and you're going to make you feel guilty. Once you have the guilt and the shame, you're going to want to come back. Yeah? Well, now you got to look at that whole picture of your life and say, whoa, it's amazing I survived that. Okay, what's going on Mars? And pick another place. Okay, so it's just something to think about. Because if you can die with that on your mind, I think it would be good. You do not have to do this. Now, suffering and fear exists because someone's benefiting from it. Right? Someone's benefiting from it. And something that a lot of people don't know is fear and shame and all that is energy. And we work with energy all the time. If people can keep generating that kind of energy through their actions, there are ways to collect that energy if you have the right technology and turn it into electricity, food, locomotion. Can you believe that? But it's energy, and energy is energy. So there are civilizations that feed off our wars, feed off our conflict, feed off our constant desire to come back and do it better this time. They don't want us to ascend. They don't want us to expand our consciousness. They need Earth as a food factory, because it's a food factory for fear. No one does it better. No one does it better for fear. You make fear an incredible commodity. So this is what you're up against. How do you take your fear of failure, fear of being ashamed, fear of not being good enough, and turn it into energy that makes you dare greatly? That's what she's saying. Has anyone ever, tell me, I want to hear one story, because I've already told my story, of the most scary thing you ever did in your life, and you thought you would never live through it, but you did it anyway. What? Alina! Anyone? really something to not brag about, but to inspire people with. You lived through this, whatever it is. What was it? In general terms, you don't have to name names, you don't even have to say the state you were living in, or anything. Or you can say, my friend, I can tell you about my friend. But then, as long as you're dealing with your vulnerability and shame, you can talk about your friend. Come on. No one stared greatly, not once. I'm the only courageous woman in this room? It can't be.
I feel the abuse in my family. How many people were violent?
Yes, yes.
I mean, pulling guns, beating with bullwhips, just severe abuse and violence, and being a child. And when it starts, and when the violence starts, and you're sitting there just totally frozen and completely petrified.
Yes, shock.
Yeah, and when's it gonna be me?
You survived.
Yeah, and my siblings didn't. And walking in on my, the siblings that didn't, and especially my sister when she was murdered, and I walked in on that scene. My brother didn't survive it. My brother and I walked in, and my brother went. And I thought, he just broke down. And he disappeared, and nobody heard from him for 15 years. And he went totally crazy. It was so horrific. It was so awful. I mean, I've been held at knife point. I've been held at gunpoint. I've had a paranoid schizophrenic go off and start throwing furniture in an inpatient hospital that I was counseling in. And my supervisor, it was my first day. My supervisor ran out. Everybody ran out. And I was with this guy. And I remembered somebody telling me, if anybody goes off like that, whisper. Because when you whisper, they have to quiet down to hear you. So I started whispering, and it worked.
So as a child, what form that was similar to whispering did you survive? Just in general, no details. In general, as a child, basically help us when you compare yourself to an adult. How did you survive?
I survived by being completely quiet. And I never talked, and because I was afraid I'd set people off. And then we had to read people's what condition they were in, and if you had to watch what you said, because you could set somebody off, and then it would all start. So it was just being very quiet and
Observant to detail and vigilant for the energy of anger to start building up, right? And then the ability to become invisible. Energy-wise, you became invisible. That's what I did too. Okay, so, if people can survive something like that, and they're faced in front of some other near disaster, like you were talking about this morning, or just something you're not looking forward to having to experience. It's not really related to the vulnerability and courage you had to expend as a child, but if you look at it, that child should have died. And as an adult, with all the coping mechanisms you have, the knowledge that you have, the experience that you have, you should be looking back at your courage. And you should be looking back at your ability just know that you're probably surviving. Live in love.
One thing I think it did for me, I read people really well. Because that's what I was doing the whole time I grew up. But also, if there's ever anything that goes down, I can handle anything. And I can go in there and I'm calm as can be, and I'll do what needs to be done. And then later I'll cry or fall apart when it's done. Or I'll start shaking.
That's right. That's right. So some of us look at our list of things that we have been through in life and think about how inferior we must have been when we were passing out incarnations. I'll take the worst one there, thank you very much. Whatever. You can look at our list like that, or you can also look at your list like, if I survive this, I can deal with the death of my parents. They're 95. They're not 62. I'm 68, not 28. Okay? There's a big difference. I can survive this. Can I really turn to a God or a higher power and say, please extend the life of my 95-year-old dad, whose body is breaking down and who has worsening dementia. Let him stay a few more years. Why? For me? Or can we let them go and have their own new adventure? New adventure, new body, new life. Let them go. We have lived many lifetimes. We've had many people we've been married to, given birth to, killed, taught, loved, and we don't remember any of it. You can survive this. You can survive anything. Okay, so you got to realize that if you really can sit and honestly tell us in here that you have never dared greatly, you need to make some step in that direction. And I told a person who, and I'm going to tell you what the last person's story that actually made me break down in tears. And I don't break down in tears very easily. Has anyone seen me cry? I don't break down. I've heard too many stories. Okay, but this one socked me right in the gut. But anyway, what was I going to say before that? Okay, so this particular person gets triggered by women who are, by dishonesty. Anyone who's dishonest, who fools them, scams them, or anything like that. And for some reason, of course, when you're afraid of that and want to avoid that, it happens over and over and over and over again. It's like it chases you down. Remember that. If there's something you want to avoid, turn around and say, come on. Come, that's staring great. Come on. I'm having worse than you. And it stops, by the way. But anyway, so she was triggered by that. And she was going through a divorce, and of course they made this agreement. She moved out, and he promised to move all her stuff and send her car and all this by a certain date. And he was not going to do a single thing, so he broke his promise. So she's living, brokenhearted, anxious, waking up anxious, going to sleep anxious, God knows what, anxious. So I was trying to find out what was going to break this cycle. So I said, when you were between 8 and 10 years old, something happened that made you so shocked that anyone could betray you in such a way that you would never trust anyone again. What was that? And that just came out of my mouth. She was, I never thought of that. So here's the story. begged them and begged them and begged them and begged them, because they're the type of family where they had to make one pair of shoes last the whole school year, right? Even though your feet were 1 inch too big by the end, you still had to find a way to shove your feet in those shoes. She begged and begged and begged. Instead of those brown penny loafer things, she wanted a pair of tennis shoes. And they were white instead of brown, which hides the dirt, right? Begged. And so she finally actually got them to get her a pair of white tennis shoes. So she's wearing them proudly. She's so happy. She can't believe it. Her mother sends her into the garage. She steps into the garage and didn't know there was a basin of used motor oil right outside the door, and steps both feet into the used motor oil. And she is 8, 9, 10 years old, and it's like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. What is she doing? Scrubbing like crazy, trying to get these white shoes, no grease off these white shoes. Because if her father heard about it, he would beat her to an inch of her life, serious. And you know about this kind of beating. She would have scars and redness and sores. So she did not want that to happen. Her mom opens the door because she's wondering, I sent her for something, 3 hours have gone by and she hasn't come back from the garage. And she sees her daughter scrubbing away. So she says, what happened? She goes, I messed up these tennis shoes, but Mom, just give me a few more moments. I'm going to make this look like I just kind of got him a little dirty. It's going to look almost new. Just give me a moment. Don't tell them. So she goes, she's continuing. Scrub a few minutes go by. The door opens. There's a dad. There's a mom behind her. She told him. The mom told the dad. Why? When the daughter found out later, why did you tell Dad? Because I didn't want to get beat myself. So her daughter was a sacrificial lamb that she was set up to be beaten so she doesn't get beat up. Her own older sister stood between the father and her and said, beat me instead. Beat me instead. You haven't beat me in a long time. Beat me instead. He beat them both. And the mother just went about her business. I just about died. I just thought, oh my God, you think your mom says, okay. She kind of nods her head or something, I won't tell. And goes and comes back with the devil. I just could not believe that. Could not believe that for the life of me. But once you release that, the anxiety was gone. So it took that incredible, heartbroken betrayal sting out of what her ex-husband is doing. He's just being selfish. She's lived without these things for 2.5 years while he's reneged back and forth. Is she going to really die if he doesn't send this stuff? She can buy all the new things. But it was a reminder of that deep, heart-wrenching betrayal. So, these are the connected dots that you're going to accidentally do sometimes, and sometimes you're purposely going to do. But it's your curiosity that's going to drive you. What makes someone so incredibly anxious about something like this? You know, dare to go into places that you don't even think pertain to it. Why need to 10-year-old? All I can tell you is that's school age, and that's when you're trying your best to get all your promotions and good grades and pat on the backs and teachers' approval, somewhere within that age. Okay, so let's do a meditation. Okay, so here's a meditation. We're going to close our eyes. And if I've done it with you before, then do it again. But I want you to imagine that you are a globe, a sphere of light in a big black emptiness of space. Okay, just one beautiful, whatever. And if you don't think it's beautiful, make it whatever you think you want. I don't want to encourage you to think positively of yourself. I want you to see yourself the way you see yourself. Whatever it is, no judgment. Okay, so you're floating in space, you're a sphere. Okay? Now, around you are other spheres that we're going to give conditions to before they can be there with you. I want you to be someone you would give your life for. You would drop everything that you're doing, no matter how important, even if you're doing surgery on someone, you would drop everything to be at their side if they called you. Because you know they wouldn't call you for nothing. Have to be important. Okay, so here's the big question. How many of those other spheres do you have around you that fit those conditions? That you love and fit those conditions? And you don't have to open your eyes, I just want you to raise your hand. Do you have more than 5? Anyone have more than 1? Okay. So let them be around you, and I want them to take the shape and look what you think they are. So if it's your 2 parents, and like my parents, they're both alive, but they're waning and becoming weaker and have dementia. They're kind of smaller than I am. They're a little more faded, a little rough on the edges. Okay, so make the people that are around you fit the description of how you see them. And those of them that are connected to you by something, where you have to give them some of your energy, or you have to take some of their energy to survive, I want you to connect only those spheres that have that relationship with you, where you have to give your energy, or they have to give you their energy. See a stream of light come out from your sphere and connect to theirs. Only the ones that are like that. And as that stream of light connects to their sphere, I want your light should drop a little bit, because you're not 100% anymore. Someone is taking from your energy reserve, and so your sphere is going to shrink just a little bit. They're taking 10% of your energy, and there's 3 of them, and they're all taking 10%, your sphere should drop by 30%. Make it real. Anyone have a sphere around them that is not connected to you by a stream of light? Okay. So they're near you, but they're not connected. Good. Okay. Alright, so everyone your shape has changed a little bit, your size has changed a little bit because of the connecting energies. Now, those of you that are connected to the spheres, I want you to notice what that connection does. Can you move around freely? Or are you restricted a little bit? A little bit restricted? Okay. Can they move around freely? No, they would break the connection. If they are depending on your energy, you're giving energy to them, do you think they could feel it if you disconnected from them? Okay. If they're giving energy to you, do you think you could feel it if you disconnected from them? Okay. So, here's the thing. You are attached to those that you love, and they are also draining some of your energy. When you are attached like that, both of you, all of you, are restricted in where you want to go. And if you went to another part of the world or another room, they would feel that pull. They would feel the strain of you trying to pull away from them. And that could make them feel insecure, like, where's she going? Where's she going? Okay. So just know that these dynamics exist. And when one of them gets sick, you notice you're getting drained some more. So now they're taking more than 10% from you. They're taking more on certain days, and you're draining more. You're getting smaller. Okay, so in this state of events, can you give 100% of yourself to anyone? Now, just as an experiment, I want you to give yourself permission to experiment with cutting every single cord, because you can put them back, I promise. Cut them all. Let them all go. Cut the cords. Okay, I want you to notice that all the spheres are still near you. You're still near them. And I want you to just take an experiment and back away from them just a little bit and see what they do. Hopefully you'll notice some of them are grouping together.
Yes, that's right.
Good. They're learning to use new resources, networking on their own. You might even feel a little bit like you trust them. Like you think they're strong enough. And they're feeling a little bit bold. You're noticing that your energy is getting brighter and a little bit bigger. You're starting to recharge a lot easier. And you can always come back. You come back in the room, one goes to greet you, the others still kind of hang out together in another corner. Or all come to greet you, and then they all kind of move away because they're busy doing their own thing now. And you are still recharging and getting bigger and brighter. Now you look around at them as they're learning new skills, depending on themselves, learning to ask for help from other people than you. They're getting bigger and brighter too. When you do this exercise, and when you can do it with full sincerity, they will feel the detachment, but they will not feel the abandonment. They'll be a little startled. But then there's all these things that will go through their mind. I still see her, I can still call her. But I don't have to depend on her with a novel thought. And now you're 100%, and they're way bigger than when they started. Unconnected to you, and the freedom to move is unlimited. So the question for you is, what situation benefits all? Okay. Come back when you're ready. Even young children can feel when you detach, but if they still see you and you're there every day, they just seem to be more independent. I've had a client do this to their 6-month-old, and the 6-month-old changed. Became more mature looking. Something shifted. Dad was away on a trip, comes back, notices the change. Before Mom left the room, there was immediate screaming and crying. And he basically controlled the universe in that room. And now that he can see Mom, but she's just keeping everything's fine. I was fed. The doctor's right. What's this toy over here? You know, so things shift. Things change when you're not attached. This is the detachment that is being asked of you. It's not abandonment. It's allowing yourself to recharge. You still have the free will to move close to the ones you want to. You're leaving the other ones at their own will and their own resources. And guess what happens? They grow. So try this. I think you'll find it surprising. And don't tell anyone you've done it. And see if it changes. People shift. It's truly amazing. All right. Okay. I wanted to show you now. Okay, we're almost done. Anyone have any questions that I need to cover? Christina, you're nodding your head. Do you have questions?
No, sorry. I don't have questions.
Anyone ever write the list? I want you to do it right now. Once you write the list, and you can do it in code. If anyone found the paper, they wouldn't understand what it is. Write the top 20 things, the worst things that have happened to you. Okay? If you want to say moved away from school or was in jail, you can put W-A-J. No one will ever know what that is. I was in jail. But I want you to write it. Try and come up with as many horrible. I mean, you classify them at least as horrible